Okay, so we're going to start by creating a new project in Godot. We're going to click the Create button, and I'm just going to call mine Sandbox, which is a sort of programmer term for big playpen where anything goes. It's a great place to just experiment with stuff, and it's a pretty good name for the type of thing we're doing. It's just putting a bunch of 3D assets in Godot and playing around with them. So here opens my Sandbox. I'm going to stick in the 3D scene this time. We don't need to move to the 2D window. We're going to be working in this window, which is 3D. I'm going to start off by creating a 3D scene node, and I'm going to rename it to main, exactly the same as we did in our 2D copy. And before I do anything else, let's make sure I've saved this main scene. I'm going to press Ctrl S, and I'm just going to save it as main scene. So we're all ready and set up to start making things in 3D. And the first thing we're going to add to our 3D scene is a ground, because we're not going to be able to do very much if we don't have a ground. We're just going to fall for all of eternity. So I'm going to click the Add button. I'm going to expand Node 3D, and we're going to use some new nodes now. When we were making our last game, we pretty much stuck the entire time just to making an area. And areas are really good for intersecting with stuff. Like we had bullets that we were intersecting with. You can use areas for intersecting with coins and doors and things as well. But there are other types of nodes that we want to have a look at. And for floors and basically anything that doesn't move, the type of node that we want to look at is actually a static body. That just means that if you collide with it, you won't go through it. Static means it's staying still. We're also going to have a little bit of a look later at rigid bodies, which is for anything that moves, and our player is going to be a character body, which means that we can control it. So all these different physics bodies have slightly different properties, and for anything that doesn't move, we're going to make it a static body. So I'm going to choose static body, click Create, and so that it doesn't get too lost in the tree, I'm going to rename this one ground. And maybe I'll keep static body 3D in brackets so you remember that's a static body 3D. Now we need to add two things to our static body. This is just like we did in 2D. All of our objects needed to have a picture and a hitbox. We already know the name of the hitbox in 3D. The name of a hitbox is CollisionShape. So let's go to CollisionShape 3D, create ourselves one of those. And just like we did with 2D again, I'm going to click over here in the shape drop-down, and for ground, I'm just going to select a big box. A box shape, so we've got a 3D box this time. And I think if I click on the box shape, then I can resize this box. For a ground, we probably want it to be more like 50 meters by 50 meters, not just 1 by 1. Big ground like that, taking up most of the space. And to zoom out, I'm just going to use the scroll wheel. So I've zoomed out on our 50 by 50 meter ground. This is great. It's already going to collide with stuff. I might move it down half a meter. So I could do that by dragging this green thing. You can see the transform there is moving by different amounts. But just to be really precise so that it's lining up exactly at 0, 0, I'm going to click in the Y direction and move it down by 0.5 meters. And, oh, that's the wrong way. That's plus 0.5 meters, down by 0.5 meters. There we go, and it's lining up nicely with the ground. And so we've already learned a few things just about how directions work in 3D. It looks like Y is going upwards, and you can see both in this little widget and on the arrow, and all these numbers here. Y is green to just help us out, let us know that's the one that means upwards. It's always going to be green. X is always going to be red, it's going sideways. And Z is always going to be blue, and it's going sort of forwards towards us. So that's pretty much consistent for the whole time through Godot. Also, I've already scrolled in and out a bit. I can also rotate around the object I'm looking at by holding down on the scroll wheel. we'd call that clicking the middle mouse button. Or I can rotate based on my camera by holding down the right mouse button. So I've got moving with the right mouse button rotates my camera, moving with the middle mouse button rotates the object I'm looking at, and I can also drag stuff just the same way I could in 2D by holding down Shift while I move that middle mouse button. That lets me drag the whole scene around. So you'll probably see me doing all of those a little bit as I move around my scene. I like to rotate stuff to the angle I want to look at, and then drag it to be in the middle, and then maybe zoom in and out with the scroll wheel. So we've learnt about all the directions. We've got a really nice collision shape here, which means that nothing is going to fall through the ground anymore, but we don't have a picture of the ground. And in 2D, all the pictures were called sprites. Sprites, sort of the fancy 2D word for just like a flat picture. In 3D, they're all called meshes. And the reason it's called a mesh is because really, all 3D shapes look like this. They are a bunch of triangles all stuck together, like a bunch of chicken wire. It's like a mesh. So the only thing that makes it look nicer than a bunch of chicken wire is that it's covered by a 2D shape, kind of just like a piece of paper covering the surface of the mesh. And so we end up with a really nice 3D asset, but all 3D assets really just work exactly like this. They're a bunch of chicken wire covered in like a 2D paper image. So when people are making 3D things, usually you use a tool and you paint over the top of this object, but it gets saved as just a flat 2D image added to a mesh. So we're going to create a mesh now for our ground. Final object, I'll make sure I've selected ground, click plus, and I'm going to create a MeshInstance, which is a type of geometry where you can just search in the search bar for MeshInstance, click create, and just like with the collision shape, I can choose what type of mesh instance I want. Over here in the side panel, that's where all the different meshes are, and just like there is a box collision shape, there's a box mesh. Get a tiny box, and I can click on that box to change all of its properties, including making it 50 meters wide, 50 meters wide in the Z direction as well, and it looks like I want to make that one a bit lower as well. So I'm going to try to find its transform and move it down. I've learned by minus 0.5. So now my box mesh and my box collision shape are perfectly lined up. It is a very, very bright white color though. So the final thing I'm going to do to this mesh is change what material it uses. Just like I showed you in that image a second ago, meshes. We've got this part, the shape of the box, and we're just adding this bit, which is our material. In this one, it's like a picture of a dog, but in our one, it's going to be a bit more straightforward. It's going to be a solid color. So after having clicked on my box image, and I've got all these settings, including changing the size, you'll see a new box for material. And I can click on that drop down, add a standard material, just the top option, and I get another thing I can click on. Inside that material, I've got heaps of options for the material. I can choose how transparent it is, I can choose how shading works, I can make it look kind of metal. But the one we're after, and this is the final new word for this stage of the video, is albedo, which is just the fancy word for sunlight color, the color of the actual object as the sunlight bounces off it. So by default, it's just a bright white color. If I open up albedo, I can change this to any color I like, and I get a different color surface. Let's go for a kind of greeny color, kind of grass ground. That looks like an alright kind of a ground for us. Maybe a bit darker. And there we have it. I've got a ground object in my scene. I think that's a good place to end our first video.